Hi Scorpio, and welcome to your June 2024 horoscope. June should feel a little bit calmer and more gentle than April and May did. To be fair, April and May, it was eclipse season. We had Pluto going retrograde, Jupiter entering Gemini. We had the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction as well. So there was a lot happening. In contrast, in June, we have Mars entering Taurus, which should help calm down some of our actions and drives and motivations. And we have the Sun and Venus entering the sign of Cancer, which should also help bring a little bit more of an emotional and introspective energy. But we'll start off talking about the month of June by talking about Jupiter. Jupiter on June 2nd trines Pluto. Jupiter entered Gemini at the end of May, so that's exciting. It's going to be there for a whole year. And I think the fact that it's starting off this year-long transit by having a conversation with Pluto is actually really, really interesting. I really love this. When I think of the trine between Jupiter and Pluto, I think of the fact that sometimes we are more afraid of our success and our power than we are of our failure. Another thing that this Pluto and Jupiter conversation might bring up for all of us is not just where are we afraid of succeeding or why are we afraid of succeeding, but also what do we need to let go of in order to bring in all of the benefits, all of the opportunities that Jupiter has in store for us. And for you specifically, Scorpio, it's about letting go anything that doesn't serve you anymore in regards to your home, in regards to your familial relationship, and even in regards to your own internal home, the home within ourselves. And if you want to hear a little bit more about what Jupiter has in store for you, if you do end up dealing with these Plutonian lessons, then I highly suggest you watch this live that I did on Jupiter in Gemini. I go through all of the 12 signs so that you're aware of exactly what Jupiter may bring for you. Let's continue talking about Venus and the Sun. They are actually front and center during the month of June. They are moving quite fast, so they make a lot of aspects to a lot of different planets and points in the sky. The first is on June 3rd when Venus and the Sun sextile the North Node. The North Node in Aries has been asking all of us collectively to be bold and courageous, to not be afraid to put ourselves first. And for you specifically, Scorpio, at the beginning of June, you're asked to be bold and courageous with your vulnerability. To, even if you're scary, to step up to the plate, be vulnerable with others, let them into the deep, dark corners of your mind, of yourself, that you don't reveal to others that much. You will find that having this energy a little bit more and really stepping up to the occasion, really letting yourself be seen. You know, when we open up in a vulnerable way, we're letting ourselves be seen and heard by another person. You'll probably find that this feels really nice when you do that. And the wonderful thing is that just a day later on June 4th, the Sun and Venus are conjunct in your 8th house. So because these two transits are so close to each other, I also see this as when you open up to another human being and you are vulnerable, you're courageous with being vulnerable, that will also strengthen your relationship. Sun and Venus in your 8th house will help make that connection between the two of you so much more meaningful and beautiful. And we're not done talking about your eighth house quite yet. Actually, on June 6th, we have a new moon in your eighth house in the sign of Gemini. One of the important things to note about this new moon is that the Sun and Venus are closing in on a square to Saturn. It's not exact until later, until June 8th and 9th. However, it's still close enough during the new moon that you will most likely feel it. This means that even though you might feel like you want to start being more vulnerable, even though you might feel like, hey, you were courageous earlier that in the month and that went really well, so you might want to try it again. With the square to Saturn, it might feel like that's going a little bit slower than you expected, or it's not received as well as you might have expected. So just be very patient with yourself. One of the pieces of advice that I always give with the planet Saturn is not to get discouraged. And to keep in mind, even though it's easier said than done, to keep in mind that you can still get to your end destination, but with Saturn, you might just have to consider if you can do it in a different way. The square with Saturn is exact on June 8th and June 9th. So on June 8th, Venus is exactly square Saturn, and on June 9th, the Sun is exactly square Saturn. So you might continue to feel this restriction all the way up until the 8th and the 9th of June. And one of the things that's quite interesting about the 9th of June is that on that day, Mars also enters the sign of Taurus, which is your 7th house. So Mars entering the sign of Taurus, especially because it's entering your relationship house, it might especially put that extra emphasis on your relationship. So they might especially be on top of mind for you. But also, how I've sort of been explaining this for the other zodiac signs as well, is that Mars in Taurus tends to calm us down a bit. All of a sudden, we're not motivated by action, we're motivated by rest. We are pursuing time to have some rest, time for peaceful occasions, time for delicious food. And this can also especially be true for you. And for you, Scorpio, I really see you achieving these states of peace and tranquility with another human being in partnership. As soon as Mars enters Taurus, however, it also squares Pluto. The square between Mars and Pluto happens on June 11th. So Mars in your 7th house squares Pluto in your 4th house. And especially for you, Scorpio, because this is happening in your angular houses, you're going to be one of the zodiac signs, one of the few zodiac signs that really feels this, or this feels really intense for you. Because we're talking about Pluto again, we're talking about your fears, the parts of yourself, of your life that you don't want to address. It's easier not to address them. It's easier to hide them in the closet. But whatever is happening in your relationships, all of the time, focus, and energy you've been directing there is probably triggering or highlighting any of the fears that you have around what family means to you, what home means to you. You know, if I had to give an example of how this could manifest, it's this idea that you have a wonderful conversation with your partner where they reveal to you that they would love to start a family with you. You know, they make a joke about, oh, it'd be so fun if we have children one day. But all of a sudden that triggers something inside you where you start to realize, wait a second, that's really a big commitment. And is this really a person that I want to have a family with? And, you know, what would I like? What sort of qualities do I want my child to have in a father or in a wife? So that could be, for example, just one manifestation of how this transit could play out. But enough about deep topics, enough about those skeletons in our closet. Let's go back to Venus and the Sun. because they still have quite a few transits and movements left to go. So on June 16th, Venus is actually at the final degree of Gemini and ready to enter Cancer. But before it does that, it squares Neptune. And remember, the Sun is right behind Pluto, following it closely. So just a couple of days later, on June 20th, we also have the Sun at the final degree of Gemini, squaring Neptune. With Neptune in your fifth house, these 4 days are making it clear to you that there might be some things in regards to your self-expression, the way you have fun, your pleasures, that you're not being honest with yourself about, that you're looking at it with rose-colored glasses. And there's, many ways that this could manifest. This could be a transit that lets you know, hey, actually, you think you take plenty of time to rest, but all of a sudden you realize that you don't. You're actually quite naive in that area of your life, and you really work too much, and you never take time to rest. It could also be the other way. You could be somebody that thinks, oh, well, I have my vices in check. I have my cigarettes only once a day. But this transit takes off your rose-colored glasses and makes you realize that actually you do tend to enjoy your cigarettes more often than you realize. So there might be some revelations coming your way during these 4 days. Right after they square Neptune, Venus and the Sun enter the sign of Cancer. So this will happen with Venus on June 17th and for the Sun on June 21st. And because they're entering your 9th house, from those days onwards, you might feel more of a shift for you to want to explore. You've done the depths, you've done the deep, vulnerable conversations with your loved ones, and now you're ready to expand, to experience the world. You're ready to travel, to read more books, to pick up more courses, to educate yourself. So this could definitely be top of mind for you. And on a more high level perspective, you could also be more concerned with your beliefs. What is it that you believe? What type of lifestyle do you want to lead? How do you want to show up in the world that's in line with your beliefs and the core of who you are, your core values? And the 9th house will also be highlighted during the full moon for the month. So on June 22nd, we have a full moon in Capricorn. So the full moon is in Capricorn in your 3rd house, and the Sun is in Cancer in your 9th house. Full moons tend to reveal information to us. They tend to make things clear where maybe there was some uncertainty or unclarity before. And specifically for you, there might be something coming from your local community that gives you a piece of information about your beliefs, makes something really clear to you about your beliefs, makes it really clear to you that travel is actually quite important to your life, makes it really clear to you what course or educational program you should sign up for next. So be really curious and open-minded and listening during this full moon. Let's return now to Venus because she still has 2 transits left. First up is the transit squaring the nodes. So Venus squares the nodes on June 26th. If you remember at the beginning of June, on June 3rd to be exact, we have Venus sextiling the North Node, asking you to be courageous. And the same theme will come up on the 26th as well. However, it will have a bit of a different trigger or point of origin. And this is because Venus is no longer in your 8th house, but it's now in your 9th house. Now the story is about being courageous with your beliefs. The story is about being courageous with choosing a belief, choosing a lifestyle, and being courageous with sharing that with others, taking a stand and making your beliefs known to the public. Just a couple of days later, Venus continues to move through Cancer, and on the 28th, it sextiles Mars. So this is the final transit that Venus will be doing in the month of June. And this is actually a really beautiful transit. The sextile Mars is in your 7th house. So all of the reflection you've been doing on your beliefs, what do you believe, what do you want to stand for in this lifetime, what values do you want to uphold as a person on this earth, is actually helping your relationships out in some way. I can imagine this transit manifesting as you becoming really clear on the fact that compassion and volunteering are huge aspects of how you want to show up in this life. And, maybe you share that with your partner and your partner says, actually, that's a really good idea. I want to do that with you too. Sign me up as well. And by doing that activity together, it brings you closer and it gives you a chance to form an even deeper relationship as well. So that's just one example of how this transit could manifest. But of course, keep in mind that it could also happen in many different ways as well. And we have to talk about the most important, second most important transit of June, which happens on June 29th, and that is Saturn going retrograde. Saturn has been in Pisces since March of 2023. And now it's finally going retrograde, and it will be retrograde until November. So you do have quite a few months. There's no need to be in a rush. Use these months to reflect on the maturity that you have brought to your means of having fun, how you deal with your pleasures, with your self-expression. Have you been mature in that area? Have you been working hard to make sure you take time and space to have fun, to do things that bring you joy? Have you also been patient in that area if things haven't worked out? Have you still persisted and tried again and again? Use this time to reflect and note that if there's anything you want to do differently from November when Saturn goes direct, you have the chance to do that. You have sort of a second chance. So overall, Scorpio, a really wonderful June ahead for you. There is a great opportunity to become vulnerable, to share the parts of you that you don't usually share with somebody that's close and that you can trust. And of course, towards the end of the month, you have some wonderful action in your 9th house. So you might be thinking broader. You might be thinking about your lifestyle, your beliefs. And as a result, you might be shopping around. You might be shopping around by traveling, experiencing different cultures and lifestyles. You might be shopping around by expanding your mind, doing some education, for example, as well. So if you ever wanted to sort of do any of that, honestly, June is a great time to do it. I hope you enjoyed this forecast, Scorpio. I hope you have an amazing June ahead. And before you go, I am doing a giveaway. When we reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I am giving away one free reading to one of you. So if you want to make sure that you get a chance, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.